Hello.
Hi,
Hi, how are you?
very well. Thank you. Thank you for having me, Tarshila.
Thank you so much for being a part of the Hindu Weekend series, Lockdown with Weekend.
Wonderful stuff you're doing.
Thank you. And thank you all for joining in the conversation. Um, I'm going to start right away because we have exactly an hour and I want to make the most of it. Um, I'm going to start off by a little introduction to Leela Sampson. Not that she really needs one. Most people here know her, but I'm going to introduce her just from a personal point of view. So, for those who probably are joining this conversation for the first time and are not too familiar with the world of Bharatanatyam, I'm going to kind of introduce her to you. When I think of Leela Sampson, I think of the words beauty, strength, courage, dignity, conviction, and commitment. When I think of her, there's one quote that often comes to my mind, and it goes that she'd rather walk alone in darkness than follow someone else's shadow. To the world of dance, like I said, Leela Sampson really needs no introduction, but I'm going to just take her quickly, allow you all to just quickly revisit her journey. Leela Sampson received the impulses for her growth as a dancer from the Kalakshetra in Chennai and went on to earn a first class diploma and a distinction in the post graduation course and became a part of the repertory company that traveled in India and abroad. Her body of work, Spanda, literally meaning inner vibrations and a pulse, that is also her dance company, turns 25 this year and continues to enthrall audiences with its innovativeness in tradition. Leela Sampson was the director of the Kalakshetra from 2005 to 2012, and amongst other notable contributions she made to the institute, the Padma Pushkarni, conceived by her, attempted to revive the water bodies in the institute. Two documentary films have been made on her. She's also an author, and I'm particularly a big fan of her book, Rukmini Devi, A Life, on the life of legendary dancer and founder of the Kalakshetra. Leela Sampson is the recipient of several awards, including the Padma Shri and the Sangeet Natak Academy Awards. In fact, she's also served as chairperson, Sangeet Natak Academy, Delhi. She's also served as chairperson, Central Board of Film Certification. In 2015, she acted in Mani Ratnam's film, O Kadal Kanmani, and has also acted in a few other films. I remember interviewing her when she assumed office at the Kalakshetra many years ago in her beautiful office, and thereafter for Alap, where we at Chemiers, where we spent a good 3 hours speaking about her life and craft. And amongst the many, many beautiful things that she said, some have remained with me. And I'm going to make a reference to one particular idea that we discussed, Leelaka, because it's, I think, relevant to the conversation we're going to have tonight. When I asked her about the genesis of Spanda, I remember she made this point about the idea of speed. And it has stayed with me, and it's also like a big, sort of a quote that we've used in the interview itself. And I'm going to quote Leelaka. She said, I felt as a result of speed in dance, we were losing something of value in music. The pause, the silence, the contemplation. I felt compelled, she said, to slow it all down a bit. I felt an urge to see where the core of an adavu came from. I realized as time went by that it was not all about the hands and the legs. It was also about my gut, the core. I had to learn to use that. Just as we brainstormed about what we could speak tonight, Leela Sampson suggested we speak about finding the perfect balance between the head and the heart to create an equal music. We're going to focus on this idea, Leelaka, largely. But before that, I want to ask you, how has lockdown life been treating you?
Akhila, unlike the millions of our poor people who have really suffered through this, we are so blessed. I've been very, very fortunate to be in a comfortable environment, but also a very productive environment. I actually, you know, suddenly woke up to the fact that we're going to be like this for a while, and I said no, which is, I usually err on the side of discipline. So I'm up at 5. I do my exercises and my walking till about 6:30, and then because we didn't have any labor around the building, I do the pump and the cleaning of the garden, and so watering the plants and all that, and then settle down to a nice quiet cup of tea. Uh, but after that, I also got involved with. I was on a jury to look for the best Indian novel. So that was wonderful reading for a while.
Wow.
Uh, uh, I just so that was good 3 hours of reading every day. Apart from that, I got the bug of watching films, and I've watched some amazing films in Malayalam, in Hindi, and in English, of course, but also in Italian, and saw some really very moving stuff, which has completely. Normally, when you go to see a film in a theater, you see the one odd movie, but here you have an opportunity to see a movie a day or more, and that is really such a pleasure. And one of the biggest changes in somebody like me is that I've been able to actually start some classes online. And I enjoyed them very much. I'm taking a group of my senior most students in Delhi and Bombay and Goa and all, who I've been teaching some Abhinay to, which has been very satisfying. So we're going to continue that, and I'm going to push them to deal with this Naika. They are the ones with the questions, so and we'll be discussing that. So it's been a good time, actually. It's been a good
Lovely. Leelaka, you said you watched many films. Can you share 2 films? Can you recommend 2 films that we must watch?
Oh my gosh, I would say Panchayat was a wonderful film. I saw a beautiful historic British series called Medici. I saw an amazing Malayalam film just out, is Vikriti, and it's a lot about the evil of the WhatsApp. You know how technology can make you put an instant picture online, and it can actually it can actually change somebody's life for the worse or for the better. But in this case, it was the worse, and it was really it's really quite a touching story. So, I've seen a whole host of others. I saw a beautiful Kashmiri film called Hamid, and also one called Shikara, I think. Yes.
Okay.
Very nice.
Okay. I'm going to try and
problems there. Yeah.
Right. Super. Leelaka, I'm curious about, let's start off with, when you suggested this idea about finding, the balance between the head and the heart. I'm really curious about, what triggered that idea for you, and also about, have you as a dancer been, has this been like your sort of this pursuit, or is it something that you're kind of thinking about more deeply of late?
No, it's always, it's like in life, Akhila, we're always looking for some, always the balance is somewhat all right. And it's either between home and work, or it's between your impulses. You're either thinking too much or you're feeling too much. Somewhere the balance upsets the apple cart. And in art, it's even more pronounced. But we also seem to have, not just within each of us artists, but also the whole. So if I'm talking only about Bharatanatyam, I've lived long enough now to see that there have been waves of change. And a change surreptitiously enters the field, and then it stays for a while. And there are fads, and there are moods, and there is something that becomes popular, and there's something that becomes totally unpopular. And in all this, to find your balance and to find within yourself is one thing, but then for the whole community of Bharatanatyam dancers to find relevance between the head and the heart, or between Abhinay and Nritta, or between the kind of pieces that we choose to do, or the kind of works we create anew. All this is happening simultaneously. But somewhere in that, the balance is missed. And when that happens, it's really quite sad to watch, because you go kacheri after kacheri after kacheri, and you find yourself watching all these very high-powered nritta pieces, which are very beautiful and very very expert. I mean, these children are very, very expert dancers. So I'm not finding fault with anybody. I'm part of the problem, uh, but I I still have an ideal, and I like to pursue that ideal. And the ideal is that there must be something that touches me. You have to be able to, touch yourself and say, I really felt so good. And it's not just the audience or the sabha, but even yourself as an artist, you must be able to walk off not just in a bath of perspiration, but also with a heart full of affection for what you've done, but also for the world at large, because you're in the process of creating beauty. It is a pursuit. That perfect line is a pursuit. It doesn't have to be always so fast that I miss it. And the Abhinay doesn't have to be so cliched and so, making faces to the point where it's all a cliche. It's just nothing is, seems to be coming from my heart. And this is what I feel that, somewhere between these layers of even too much intellectualization or too well planned product, even that is sometimes comes in the way. It jars. We know that it's been worked at too hard. For instance, this year I saw a young dancer do a Varnam at Music Academy, and the very first line of the Varnam, uh, after doing only one Padarthatai, it went off straight into a Nerval and a Sanchari, which lasted 5 minutes. One hand. So one idea. So that means it was very well planned and packaged. But it was gone into another world. Where is the Naika? Where are you? Where is the Jivatma speaking there? Yeah, the self.
Right.
That's when it hurts, and it may be so neat and tidy and even persuasive, but not doesn't touch the heart somehow. I really feel that we all have to work much harder at bringing the core value of the dance back. And I'm only talking about Bharatanatyam. I cannot comment on Kathakali or Kudiyattam or any other form where different things are demanded of the artist. But in Bharatanatyam, we ourselves seem to be wondering why is it that the music kacheris are so much more better attended than ours? Why is it that we have so few people attending the Bharat? It's changing, but it's also sometimes it's really sad to see 5 people sitting there for a young artist. I know. Something has gone wrong. And I think more than somebody else telling us, I think it's better that we look at it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Leelaka, when I talked to you, you also told me about there is a sort of quantitative approach to everything. You spoke about how there is a certain physicality which has taken precedence over the emotive aspect of dance, right? And do you think that it's probably a reflection of the world around itself, which has become that?
Absolutely. It is, because of the entrance of in the intellect in so many ways, especially in the IT and technology and all. Everything moves much faster. Everything, you have a thought and it's out there today. I want to tell Akila something, I said it day before yesterday. There's no waiting for a nice moment when I can actually hold your hand and say something to you. So those days are gone. When it is like that, when the environment is like that, then you can obviously see the reflection in art. But what is the purpose of art? The purpose of art is a little different to the lives we live. Even a film, which now moves at quite a rapid pace, even there's a search for silence. There's a search for the still frame. And these moments are very, very special. So I feel that however clever we seem to be getting, I know it. You hear young people say that. Yeah, I got it. I know it. Yeah. There's an immediate, something that we wouldn't have dared ever say, not because we were scared to say it, but we just didn't think there was artists of such great value ahead of us. That there was no way that we could even say that, I know it. I can do it. And there's no virtue to that as such. But I think a little terror, nice word in the north, especially it's used in Kathak a lot.
Yeah.
Thera means the
Thera.
ability to stay, to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
So just being quiet also and holding your thought, holding that strength that I can do it, holding on to that, and then doing it,
Yeah.
with some charm and with some.
Yeah.
That would be. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
look for. But
You know,
can
when
see it. I mean, you can see it as I told you in this, the, with the COVID thing. It's just you don't want to open the paper because it's full of percentages and
statistics.
calculations and equations and uh, uh, tables and numbers and so many people and so many healed and not healed, but not one humanitarian story about how somebody
Yeah. Yeah.
very very few. So there's nothing that makes you feel that there's human beings we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's reflected in all of life, and I don't blame young artists. I don't blame artists alone for having to carry this. But I feel it is our responsibility. Art is it's a very essential part of human life, and the flowers do it all the time. They say it so beautifully every morning with their scent and with the way they open up. In fact, flowers and nature are showing us, the spirit of life. So why can't we artists be different and continue to give that khushbu, that beautiful scent of something, of a promise of something better?
Right.
That's the purpose of art.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I read this beautiful, there's this writer called Omid Safi. He's actually a professor of, I think, Islamic studies, and he writes for this website called On Being. And he talked about how in Arabic they use the word, like they use the word hal, how are you? And they use the word hal, and it's about how are you feeling. And when they
Yes.
say hal, it's said that what is hal? When you ask somebody, how are you? It's actually the transient state of one's heart. So we really want to know, when you say, how are you feeling? Right?
Yeah.
And I thought a lot about, what you said, that it's sometimes in dance, you also want to know how is the artist feeling.
So Akhila, you've hit upon a very interesting thing, because this is one of my diatribes with my own students, but also in general with dancers, is that one of the biggest assets of a style like Bharatanatyam is that it has become so adept and so the craft has become so polished that we have 100 mudras and we have 100 adavas and we have so many ways of saying something. So even if you tell a young girl, a student of dance, you say I love you, and immediately they do it because the mudra is there, the vocabulary is too rich. But if they didn't have the mudra, would they be able to say it with more feeling?
Yeah.
You have to falter for the word to be able to say it with effect. But we have all the words, and so we're not looking at the feeling at all. We're also not deconstructing the symbolism in dance. For instance, this is Mahavishnu. So somebody says this is the story, this Padam is about, I immediately hold this and I'm done with it. But what does Vishnu stand for?
Yeah.
What is he to you, and what are you to him? So when you take that mudra, it became a symbol because of the arts of sculpture and various other forms where it had to be symbolized. So Nataraja also, we just take Nataraja without even thinking, but this is the god of dance. And every part of him symbolizes something. And of course, the better dancers, they infuse that with a lot of spirit and energy, we have to say. But we also do falter in just doing it and just getting our balance right and getting the thing said. And they just move on. But a ballet dancer or even a Kathak dancer, where there's a paucity of mudras, they don't make the mudras in such rapid fire succession and complete a sentence. They would take their time because they don't have so many mudras. A ballet dancer would do it with his entire body. So it somehow has a much more impactful and sincere statement than ours.
Absolutely.
Because we just have too many words.
Too many words, yeah.
Too many words,
Interesting.
too many
Yeah.
mudras. We have too many postures, too many. It's just so rich a style that you almost have to tone it down and divest it of some of the things, and be ready to forfeit that for the core feeling, the core meaning. Then you
Absolutely.
can, yes. That I think that's our problem. We just have, it's just too rich a form.
That's true. My next question is really about, dancers are also in a way actors, and they sort
Yes.
of inhabit the skin of a character that they're trying to, bring alive. What if, a dancer really in today's context finds it difficult to step into the shoes of a character that she cannot really identify with, so to speak? What happens then? And what happens then to the balance between the head and the heart? Like, how does one?
Well, I think that's a bit of a lame excuse for somebody who wants to be on the stage, because if I was an actor and I was given a role, I'd either say I can't do this role, this is beyond me, and you just back off, or you say I'm going to do it,
Yeah,
and I'm going to get under the skin of this character. It's not you, it's somebody else. It's some character written, somebody has written and culled out a personality. You've got to forfeit your own to enter into the spirit of that personality. To say that I don't get it, it's not me, uh, is I think, frankly, it's a bit of a lame. I listen to that, and I also, to some level, understand it. But I think it's for lack of enough. You know, you've got to do something again and again for you to actually know that you should throw it out, and then throw it out if you must throw it out. There are so many male dancers doing these characters. How do they do it?
absolutely.
How do they do it? Why should a female character find it difficult to vibe with it? So an abstract theme, you seem to be able to vibe with a tree or the wind or whatever, but you can't vibe with your own feelings or the feelings of a person like another human being like you. And we're filled with jealousy and anger and transitory states of disappointment and irritation and all these things. These are real to the human being.
Yeah.
This is what we go. This is what we do. This is
Absolutely.
so if you find it difficult, it means, one, you don't want to expose yourself too much, and two, you don't want to be vulnerable in any way. You want to be totally in control.
Yeah.
I can understand that. I can understand that when you take on these nayikas, you're actually very vulnerable. But
Right.
it's beautiful if you can be vulnerable and walk that path and be angry with somebody and throw him out, or be very jealous of somebody and tell the Sakhi, I'm not going to put up with this nonsense, or say to him directly, you've been playing around with the other women. So, whatever it is, it is the music is so exquisite, I can't tell you, of the Padams and Javlis, you know that.
Yeah.
Other forms don't have this kind of poetry written for them. In Kathakali, in Kudiyattam, in Kathak, in Odissi, even in Odissi, they have Jayadev's Gita Govind, and they have some Odia songs, yes, but they don't have this massive heritage of Padams and Javalis and Vatnams written for them, for dance. Nobody else uses them.
Absolutely.
And here we are questioning them and ready to throw them out.
Yeah, absolutely. Lilaka, that brings me to my next question. What if dancers, I'm not sure, but what if young dancers tell you that, they feel that some of the subjects that Padams and Javalis deal with are ideas that they can't seem to relate to? Yeah. How important is it, therefore, how do you kind of, help them understand,
Yeah, so we all went through this, and we're talking about different times. When I was a young student, um, uh, there could have been some social norms that didn't allow you to do some padams. Today, there's nothing that you cannot touch. Nothing. Everything is said openly, not just in padams and javalis, but in films, in theatre, everything, in books, and the whole of media is full of uh, of things that human beings have done and said. And, so there's nothing stopping us from doing it on that level. There's no social, insecurity on that level. So what has changed? Is it because it's named, uh, for instance, the word Jivatma Paramatma? This is something that many people say, who is this? What is this? He can't be that perfect person, and I'm always the one who's a. But it's only a ploy. In art you have to have, the hero heroine was always a thing. There was a Manmatha, there was a villain. In Western stories, there's always a hero heroine and a villain, or there's a dragon, or there's something has to come to upset the apple cart. In India, there was also the added thing of the Manmatha, of the god. The god of love cannot be considered as a third element. It's the thing that exists between you and your beloved.
Absolutely.
The thing that exists is love, and
Right.
that is itself a badha sometimes. That's a wall sometimes, and that when opened and the ego is forfeit, then love is possible without any restrictions, without any hesitation. But I have to say that the thing that also makes them nervous is this thing of the Naika, or she's always crying, and that the other is a god or godhead of some
Yeah.
kind. For me, it's never been a problem. I have to say this. And I come from a complicated background, but still, I don't have this problem at all. Because for me, that other is my goal. It's what I seek. It's the light at the end of the dark tunnel. It's for a child, it's completing that matriculation, and from there, completing university and getting that MA and PhD, then going abroad, then getting married, having a baby, whatever your maksad is, whatever it is that you seek,
Maksad.
you move towards that goal. So for me, the Naika is this person who's going through these tribulations to reach happiness, a point of happiness, whether it is in Nritta or in Abhinay. In Nritta also, we go through a lot of turmoil to get that perfect Adam. The body doesn't stay. It's not like once I've got it, like I got it when I was 14, Tatteka, let's say. It again goes through a period of turmoil. As soon as I put on 2 more kilos, or my height increases by an inch,
Right.
it's enough to upset that article completely. It's the same with love. As you grow older, it changes. You have to change, and as you see these characters differently as you mature. But your goal is always just beyond your nose, just beyond yourself. It's just out of reach, And the wonderful thing about the ploy that is used in Bharatanatyam of the Naika Nayakan is that you're always aspiring towards that love, that goal, that whatever it is, in the form of Mahavishnu, in the form of Shiva. These are only
These are
representations. These are representations.
Yeah.
For me, they represent a quality. If I'm
Fantastic.
attracted towards Shiva, then it's because he has some qualities that are are amazing.
Right.
But I also find amazing my viraha. I also find my inadequacies amazing. That I can be vulnerable, that I can break down, that I can hold it, I can control it, I can feel jealous, I can get angry, but I still love him. This is the test of our love for anybody, your child or your husband or your ayama, your anybody. This is the test of your of life situations. And I really feel that there should be no worry on that score, because it's about how you feel for a moment in time, in the realization of your affections, in the realization of love which you seek. And love is at the bottom of it all. Love and beauty, without that, our lives are pretty bereft.
Absolutely. No, I loved what you said, actually. I'm going to ask you about, you talked about, the world has really changed, and you talked about how you've sort of seen this entire change in some sense. What has changed from the way you learned dance and the way you teach dance, And what have you what from that world have you retained when you share your dance with the, younger generation?
Well, as you know, Akhila, the Kalakshetra training is pretty solid, um, and we were. I think I was part of that early time where it was definitive. It didn't have a curtailment of so many years or anything. You just kept doing it till you were good enough to stand in front of the stage. So you sometimes did 7 and sometimes you did 15. If you were dull like me, you did 15. But or if you just enjoyed it so much that you stayed like a duh again. But the point is really that now time is a very definitive thing for these young people. There are some who can take it on into their marriages and children and beyond, which is the way to do it, because that's the only way that you can get everything that you seek in life, and also
Stay the
keep your
course.
dance from going. After all, the men are married, they are dancing.
Absolutely.
They're all managing in fact, they have the responsibility of looking after another and another and another if they have 2 kids, and trying to find a life in dance. So it's a tough one. I think the girls are better off in that sense. Most girls have a little support systems from either their fathers or then later their husbands, and the change that has come in the teaching methodology, one is a paucity of time. Two is the ability to stretch a class beyond the so-called 1 hour. 1 hour shouldn't become 45 minutes. 1 hour usually becomes 45 because the next group comes in. So, and then they take time to settle down. Any kids that come from school, I always used to find they used to bring all their little the remnants of the school day would still be with them. And I would say, wash your hands, wash your face, okay, stretch, okay, let's talk about what happened in school. Something to get them back into a new environment. But they would carry with them a lot of that trouble and that angst and sometimes the excitement of it and all. In the older ones, they carry some baggage, either their boyfriends or girlfriends or whatever that they have. So sometimes you need to just calm them down. But then you must be able to stretch a class or certainly give it a feeling of being stretched out in an easy manner. It shouldn't be that the teacher is also, no, I've got to finish this now today. So that has happened both from the side of the teacher and from the side of the student. There's pressure both sides and this sort of jamming the art form in the middle between them. The other thing I think is, a lack of desire to go deep. Yes, it seems to be sometimes very shallow. So there's no time for me to talk about this Naika or to go into the Sahityam or split the word up or consider whether they may be, it's also, teaching is also, and learning should be about discovering together. When you're teaching your little kid, you also discover so many things. When you begin to talk to him, you'll immediately find words that suit him. You'll have to look for other things to do with him, say with him, distract him. So it's the same thing with teaching, that you've got to find ways to be able to discover together, to caress something together, to look at Sahityam, to enjoy it, to think of possibilities beyond what the poet has said. The obvious is said, but there may be a lot of layering that went into making that obvious statement or so-called obvious statement. So I think that need to go deep into the thing and then spend time listening to the music, not just dancing to the music, but this is the music. So we are such spoiled brats. We have this amazing Kamboji being sung for us. We just dance to it and think that we create it. If you had to try, Akhila, to write that Sahityam, to get that Kamboji, composed like that, for you to get that metta, that beautiful metta or mishram or whatever, embedded into it, and then to create the dance and perform it, you'd be a holy mess, but you'd probably value that piece better.
Much, yeah.
That because it's all come to us as a gift, it's just like, it landed in your hands. So we take it for granted. I don't care about what the musician is doing. I'm not too worried about what Jayadeva has written or Kshetragna has written. I know, no, I have understood. I've understood.
Right.
I feel we are a little callous with it.
Absolutely. Tilaka, you also enjoy teaching children, right?
I love teaching children. I become a kiddo with them. I also find them extremely amusing, and but even grown-ups, I think, however old they are, they're usually a little younger than you, and it keeps you young. It keeps you fit. You realize that the world is changing, and
Right.
the lingo they use, you're always moving with the times. The technology they use, you inadvertently end up using. So if I've stayed alive and if I've stayed relevant, I think I owe a lot of it to young people,
Right.
without doubt. You learn a lot from your teachers, and then I think you start learning immediately from your students.
Beautiful. This is also Spanda's 25th year. And I know
Yes.
that you had plans. How are you planning to realize those plans? Like, how have you have you thought about how you'd like
It's
to?
going to be difficult this year. I'm hoping that we'll get at least some token celebrations. Celebration is what I mean. Really, what is 25 years? It's just another year in the passage of time. It really doesn't matter. As one friend of mine said, "ये क्या बात है? 25 साल में क्या रहा?" So I can understand that. I agree with that. That it's not. I'm not very hell bent on these kind of things. So it's taught me something. It's taught me that you cannot plan too much in advance. We've already lost quite a bit of money on some bookings, and because the whole company was going places, so and theaters. But we'll see how things emerge, and I'm quite comfortable with even a small soiree of people and discussing how
Yeah.
25 years have gone by. Yeah.
Gone by. Yeah, that would be
But
lovely.
yeah, we could also invest into just documenting the work. We have a lot of documentation, but we could create something out of that and put it out there. Really, time to let it go.
Right. Just speaking about letting go, I want to ask you about, experimenting, succeeding, failing sometimes. How does one decide what to hold on to and when to let go? I mean, if you can talk about,
That's a difficult one, I must say. It was always difficult leaving the guru, for instance.
right,
I never wanted to leave. I thought my whole life was going to be, in one place, and it isn't like that. I think you realize that you owe your parents something, and you go back home, and then you owe yourself something as you start a life, start a career. So there are times when you have to let go of one life in order to take on another, and I've had to do that several times. I had to give up a wonderful career, and actually almost more than my career. I had to give up some really very a host of beautiful students uh, to take on Kalakshetra. When I did it at the peak of
absolutely.
my career, and I'm sure most people thought that I wanted to do this. I didn't want to. It was inadvertent. It happened rather suddenly. But I felt strongly about the survival of the institution and you know pulling it back and bringing it to some standards of excellence once again. And I did it because I felt I owed that to the institute and to my guru. So I think you have to be able to move into these phases, and you take the flak for it as well. You take a lot of I didn't need all that bad vibrations and things like that, but that also became part of my naseeb, and
Yeah,
you live with it. You have to. So everything you do, there's a price you pay for it. But in terms of creative process, when a young person says, I've worked this piece so many times, now I just want to throw it away. I'm not getting anywhere with it. I'm saying, don't worry about it, because work on it, and then put it aside. And you may suddenly, 10 years from now, pick up that piece and the moment will be right and it will just fall out. It will just fall out of you because it was meant to be. It's something that's been. So,
Right.
for the longest time, I could not. I thought about the Ardhanarishwara concept, but I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And I just felt that the way we were looking at it as two people, uh, you know, trying to do one
Was
male and one female, that wasn't it. It's the male and female in the one person. It's the
okay.
element of masculinity and femininity within Akhila, or within Leela, or within a male character like, it could be a dancer like, Vaibhav Vajpayee. He still has to take within himself both the female and the male aspect. And how do you do that? It's critically difficult. So my whole life, I just brushed, I didn't even think about it. I just brushed it aside. I said, no, I can't. And I would look at Sahitya with great interest, and then I would just put it away. And one day, you won't believe it, I was with a couple of my students in one of their houses. And I happened to take this piece, and I said, come, just stand here. And unknown to me, the whole item got set in that within a half an hour. The entire piece came out. And people say, oh, it's such a beautiful piece, and it was just done in that one shot, because it had so much of it had sat in the back of my head,
Yeah.
my psyche, that when I did it, I knew exactly how I wanted it done.
Wow.
So I think you have to just put something aside. It will come back to you, because if you really love it, it will just come one day, and maybe the moment is not right now. Sometimes you feel that you're pushing an idea, but you're not mature enough to handle it,
True.
or you're not in the right frame. You're not emotionally vulnerable enough to do it, or you're just too busy,
Yeah.
or you want to do it for the wrong reason. I have to get it ready for music.
Yeah.
That should not be the reason. The reason should be that you just want to do it, and one day it just happens. It's like a birth. It should just be born.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't think you should worry about it. If it doesn't come, leave it. It will come. It will come. It will happen. If you really love it, really
Yeah.
passionate about it.
That's true. Like you've also been in positions of power, and where the core idea of the freedom of expression has sort of dabbled with that idea. Could you talk to us about a little bit about your
I think everything that I did do, I did because I really am I'm really a keen observer, and I really did want to learn something. Um, I know that people thought I was not why me, uh, which is okay, doesn't matter. It could have been anybody else, and it would have been. You have to just up and accept the responsibility and then go with it. So, in the CBFC, which was the Central Board of Film Certification, one of the biggest issues really is about freedom of expression, and that's so related to what we are doing, or to what any artist is doing anywhere. A sculptor, potter, painter, they're all going through these tragic moments where somebody opposes what they do. Even Hussein Saab and so many others. So in films, this is a very major issue, and I really felt that our autonomy was being, for various reasons, being denied. I felt that the film fraternity also needs to up their ante, and we should hand over, governments across the world should hand over the major part of this job to the industry itself. They should be responsible. They should declare what their film is and just put it out there. And now look what's happening on Netflix. Every film comes with a little byline, and that's it.
Yeah.
So there's nothing. So all that 100 years that we kept banning
Yeah.
films, all that. It's come to norm
Yes.
because now technology has ridden past and solved the problem. You can't
Right.
stop a child from
In,
seeing anything. You can only still be a good parent and teach them what is right and what is wrong. That's it.
right.
And I
Absolutely.
think it's up to each of us to put the switch off. You know, I go through various films when I'm trying to choose one, and I instinctively know that I don't like this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to like something. As soon as I put on for 5 minutes, I see the violence or I see whatever it is that I don't vibe with, immediately I put it off. So the idea is that you are your own censor. You have to censor for yourself, surely, and you should censor for your family or your children. You can't say I'm entitled to see it, but
Yeah,
my
but-
wife and my children are not going to see
Yeah.
it. Then don't watch it with them. You know, it's up to you to say no to it. But somebody else, it may be one man's food is another man's poison. The other person may want to see it. So I think the idea in India, it still hasn't really, you know, been understood by all of us, is that we should say no to something if we don't like it. But it
Right.
doesn't mean we should ban it.
Right.
Let it be said that person has a right to express it. For me, I must take a call for myself. That's all. The other day I heard a young actor. He said, you know, I did all these films and now I have these two little children, and I feel that they can't see my films. He said, I did such crazy stuff or such violent stuff, and this is a top Bollywood actor. And it was very touching to see that, because he had the two children in his lap and he was talking about it, and he said, I have to look for movies for them. So this is the point, is that now that he is a father, he realizes that everything is not for everybody.
Yeah.
But each person has to make their call. And
Right.
they have to put off that switch.
Right.
But you can't ban it for everybody.
Right. I'm going to ask you to comment about, sorry.
I may love a padam, which is very koche or very, risque. But you may not like it. You may say, this doesn't suit you, or I don't like to see you do this. You shouldn't be doing that. That's your opinion. I do what makes me happy at that time. If I feel that I can carry it off, I do it. Because you want to try different things. You want to put yourself in somebody else's shoes each time. I'm not when I learned my first Khandita Padam, I didn't have the ability to be really angry with somebody. And then I learned that it was a craft. It was a ability, but also you do get annoyed at yourself. So there is a bit of you in it, and there's a bit of craft, a lot of craft. So how do Kathakali dancers or anybody get into those moods? Is that a large part of it is your craft itself, but a lot of it is also you have to invest in it. And when you invest in it, it does affect you, which makes you, you realize that you are capable of doing that. And
Right.
it's a beautiful journey. I think I think everybody should try all characters and see, how it suits you. And then if it doesn't suit you and you feel that you need to drop it, like those items that you feel, are not going anywhere, just drop it.
Yeah.
But you should make that call, not somebody else.
Decision,
Nobody
yeah.
else should tell you, you don't do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to get your, point of view on, how the performing arts is going to change with this influx of digital performances. What are your thoughts about it?
It's a very difficult time, Akhila, for all of us. I cannot, and not just performing arts, craftsmen all over the country, people who make zardozi and all the wonderful
Beautiful, yeah.
potters and
Weavers and
folk artists and everybody. So everybody's down and out, because in some of it is just fear, the fear factor, because many craftsmen actually spend months in the year just producing the art, and then they bring it to the markets. I think the markets will open and they will be able to sell their wares. In any case, there are going to be new ways of selling, because food, for instance, is now being sold directly by the farmer directly to people. This is what's going to happen. So some good is going to come out of it as well. The middlemen might
Yeah.
get completely cut out of the bargain.
Yeah.
What will happen to the big theatres and the cinema theatres and the dance programs? But look at platforms like y'all. Y'all have come in and offered young dancers a new way of communicating, expressing themselves. Uh, I've just been told that Cannes and all the other big film festivals internationally are going online for 10 days in the coming month. These are huge things for somebody like us, who would never have got to any of these big film festivals or theatre festivals. Now we are going right into the Royal Ballet, right into the Bolshoi. So we are right there. They're going to be able to see those performances live. Now,
Right.
if you ask me whether it's the best way of viewing them, I'd say no. But on the other hand, I would never have got to see them anyway.
Absolutely.
So I think we have to. I'm a bit of an optimist, and I feel that things will change without a COVID is not going away. I don't believe it's going away today, tomorrow, or even at the end of this year. Some sensible doctors have said online that COVID is like a variant of a flu, which is everybody, 70-80% of the people will get it, and they'll become time for it to get, uh, you know, diluted in it. There had to be a screening, yeah. And I feel what is going to happen now is that more and more young dancers who want to say something and say, I'm not waiting for the next December season, I'm going to say it anyway, will come online and do it through platforms like yours or Samarpana or any others that come up, or their own YouTube. They'll just put it up onto them, which means that they've expressed themselves and there's a satisfaction. I only hope that they get some money in return for it because they have to survive. The fewer artists who are deserving and perhaps by rotation will come onto the main platforms with a reduced intensity of performances and things like that. I think we should prepare ourselves for all eventualities. Everybody cannot get onto that platform. There's no way. Many of us older ones will have to move aside. Many younger ones will have to get filtered out. And those who are the core young dancers of any given period will dance for a few years and then move on. But you'll have alternative platforms, which I think is a very good idea. I may dance in Canada, but you might get to see it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there are opportunities which are it's like the film festival or the theatre festivals that are now coming online. They'll put previous festivals on. So many more people will be able to see it in the comfort of their homes.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't say it's a I I would write it off as a terrible situation that we can't deal with. We are human beings. We'll always learn how to. And Indians are so good at adjusting. We are the first to come in with an alternative.
Absolutely.
Adapt. Yes. थोड़ा adjust कर लो.
Adjust करेंगे.
हाँ, madam, थोड़ा adjust कर लो. So we'll all adjust. But it may not be the ideal situation because there's nothing to beat that.
Absolutely.
Audience and performer rapport. That is something else. That is so beautiful. It's such an amazing experience. And we'll just pray for that and hope for that. And it'll just be, the fewer performances and everybody will get a chance, but some old, some middling, and some young. And the rest will wait their turn out or move to other spaces or whatever.
Right. Lilaka, I'm just going to, we have 5 minutes and I'm going to just see if there are any questions from the those listening in. Okay, some people have been asking me to turn off the comments because they weren't able to
Yes,
see me.
they sometimes very disturbing. I must say.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just trying to see if there
No
are any
question.
specific questions. There's so many comments and people from Berlin saying, "Hi, Leela Akka, your dignity personified, such an inspiration."
No questions.
Um,
That's a
okay,
good
I
one.
mean, somebody asks about, can you speak about teaching online?
Um, I tell you, it's not very successful in terms of I'm teaching two young girls in New Jersey, and it's not convenient in that when I say something, it reaches them a few seconds later. So in terms of talam, it's very difficult to explain. But what I'm doing is doing a combination of sending them, uh, small WhatsApp video of me saying something, saying a jati or putting talam, or actually I write out the shlokas so that there's no misinterpretation. So I do a combination of sending them some material and actually teaching online. Anya,
Hi, I'm so sorry.
what happened?
No, it usually gets disconnected at the 1 hour mark. So because
Yes.
I dialed you in at 8:55, sharp at 9:55, it got
Oh,
disconnected.
okay,
Sorry
okay,
about
okay.
that.
Not at all, not at all. So I think we need to wrap, isn't it?
No, I just had a couple of questions. There was a question from, I think from Rama Vaidyanathan, which was about, do you stay in the choreography and still choreograph with a third eye?
No. I choreograph on the dancers, and I join or not join. That's at a later stage. It's usually dependent on whether I have enough dancers or I just feel like getting in there myself. But more and more to nowadays, I've been sort of staying out and watching them do it. Sometimes when we want large numbers, I get in. Uh, but I'm not really a core member anymore in a sense. Uh, I used to be when Spanda started 25 years ago. Without me, it wouldn't have worked. Now it's not like that, thankfully.
Right. Tilak, I think we can do another 10-15 minutes if there are more questions.
Lovely, yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
I'm just going to, ask people to,
Sure,
because we had to disconnect in between. I'm just feeling a little.
sure.
So if anybody has questions, please feel free to. So somebody wants to know, should pop culture be influencing the classical art form?
If they want to do it, there's nothing like it.
Right.
But
Tilak, there's a question.
if they're looking for guidance from me, they're not going to get it.
How important, Sudarshini asks, how important is routine or structure for a dancer, both from a short term and from a in the long term
My
perspective?
God, if you're not disciplined, you're out. It's you just got to keep doing it. I'm so dissatisfied with my own input now that I really have to push myself. Just keeping myself fit is only one part of the whole thing. But to actually do the pieces and to not just get somebody else to do it, but even do it yourself. It's a very calls for a lot of discipline and a lot of uh, a lot of lagav. There's no,
Right.
you have to, even loving it enough is not enough. The கோலம் போடுறவ வந்து தினம் அங்க வந்து போடணும். So the same
Right.
thing, we have to put our kolam every morning. If you
Right.
don't put it, you're not going to make the pattern. That's it.
Right.
And you know,
Someone.
yeah, you lose your balance, you lose your the weight that you must put, how much emphasis, how much ease with which you make the kolam or you make those adavis. If you don't do it regularly, you lose all those little comfort zones. It becomes, you'll do it, but it'll be uncomfortable, and you find yourself pushing the body. So especially for people like Sudarshini, who have come to a stage where they're not kids anymore, but they maybe not that old either. They have to be very watchful, because the body is full of the knowledge of it, but execution can vary depending on how they've treated themselves over those few days, and you know, whether they've exercised enough. When you're younger, the body is so much more pliable, but the
Something.
minute you
Yeah.
cross that barrier, then it becomes another story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Balance,
Absolutely.
head and heart and body all go a little
That's
imbalanced.
true.
But
um,
Sudhashini is a very balanced person, so
yeah, she is absolutely. Someone would like to know how to continue dance with a career that is consuming. How do you?
ah, it's not a great idea. It lead to a lot of frustration, because I've known dancers who were dancers and then took on a career, but in a way that they wanted to be on the top of it all, on the top of the pile in America, and you can't have that. You can't be ambitious in both equally. Either you let the dance ride a gentle journey that is part of your life, and not be so hassled uh, about beating others to the top. Then your work, it's okay. But if you want to find equal energy and strength in both, you're not going to get it, because there'll also be the third element of the family.
Absolutely, yeah.
So how many things are you going to juggle? And our girls always want to be good at everything. Good mamas, good daughters, good wives, good dancers,
Yeah,
good musicians, good teachers. They all want to be teachers.
yeah,
Uh, I don't think it works, Akila.
yeah. There's an interesting question. Somebody says, Akka, do you think Bharatanatyam dancers should be thin?
Should be
Thin.
thin. I don't know about thin. I think fit, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
You don't have to be thin, you have to be fit, very fit. And you should keep pushing for that fitness level, and that's not dancing, by the way, that's a whole other ball game. Fitness is something that many people know has become a bit of a passion with me, because I know that without it I can't dance. I can't extract from my body the kind of things that I want to do if I'm not fit. I would kill myself. I would pull a
Right.
muscle, or I would fall on my head or my nose or something. So, yeah, but even leave me, I'm now beyond that age where, I shouldn't be expecting too much from myself. But for others who are in their mid, between, let's say, 30 and 50, they have to be very, very careful. You don't want an injury to make you stop dancing. It's better to be fit and dance a little less than the best, but still dance, because the
Yeah,
thing that gives you pleasure is your dance. So you stay with it.
with it, yeah.
Yeah.
Someone would like to know what aspect of Bharatanatyam should we be passing on to our younger generation, to the future generation?
Only one aspect.
One
What
important aspect of Bharatanatyam.
it's that's like saying, you know, shall I teach them only the worthiness of having ziragam in my kitchen and no other, it doesn't work like that. There is no one aspect that you can teach them that is important. If you want to just give them a love for the arts, expose them to all the arts in the world, online or live, or take them to an aquarium, or take them to the seaside, do anything that you can to make them appreciate nature and the beauty of nature. And in that, art is embedded in nature. So that's the first teacher. But if you're trying to make them learn one aspect of the dance, then you're playing with the art form, because you're denying them the holistic view of the art form as it should be seen. It should be seen in all its parameters, and you have to get under the skin of all the parameters. You can't enjoy it. If, let's say I decide I'm going to teach my children only mudras, then that's a fun thing to do. It's an alternative language that they can speak. Great, no problem. But they haven't learned Bharatanatyam then.
Right.
You should be very sure that they are not going to think that they have learned Bharatanatyam.
Absolutely. What attribute that a teacher of dance must develop? There's a question.
Attributes?
That a teacher of dance.
I think
attributes.
she has to be very, very disciplined. She or he, first of all, disciplined, but also, I think, respectful of the other. One of the things, Akila, that I think is missing in the classroom today is respect for the other, because there's a body, a mind, a heart, an intellect that is standing in front of you that can be, the person could be an Atma that is greater than you. It could be your Guru, come back to you. So, my God, you should not be disrespectful of that child. And the child belongs to somebody else. If you give me your child in my care, even for an hour, I can harm that child. We all know that mental games, emotional games, physical games. Here we're talking about body, mind, intellect, emotion, everything. You are taking somebody else's child and in a sense, it's a manipulation. It's a transference of knowledge is a very delicate thing. Where do you cross the line in your speech or your action? And we all are human. I mean, I've not been, I can't say I've been the best teacher or anything like that. I'm just saying that I was conscious of some of these problems from the very beginning, and I was very, very sure that there were some things that I wanted to eschew from the manner in which I learned them even.
Right.
And I learned from the best. I'm making no complaint about it. But still I felt that there were some things I'll never do. So you must learn to do that, and you must also continue to respect the other. You have to persuade, you have to squeeze, you have to nichoro them, take out every drop of sweat from them. Don't be so kind, but also respect them.
Okay. Somebody says how to improve the body form in young girls. Some of them are not very flexible and are stiff naturally and find it difficult. How does one improve this?
Practice makes perfect. But also, if they're not flexible and they're still children, it's because of a lifestyle. They'll have to make a lifestyle change. If you can get them onto the ground and let them sit on the floor, let them do their studies on the floor, let them take that computer, laptop down, eat on the floor if you like. The body has to be able to open up.
Yeah.
One of the problems is our lifestyle is all sitting on chairs.
Yeah.
This
Absolutely.
is very detrimental to a flexible body. You have to be able to get down there and do a lot of stretching of the limbs and, even tying your limbs up, which happens on the floor when you make contact. No villager child complains
of tight hips, right?
Yes. They're all fine.
Yeah.
So obviously it's our lifestyle, and the family has to opt for a lifestyle change. Just like we're doing now for COVID. We're all doing it. So you just get down there and do it. Yeah.
Right.
And if they're not playing any games in school, how can they be good dancers? And if they're not doing group activity, how can they be part of a company? And if they're not, bright and enthusiastic in classrooms, how will they relate to the Nataraja, the idea of the Nataraja? So it's very cerebral, So I think you've got to be give the kid a lot to think about and a lot to get energetic about, and then they'll be good dancers.
Automatically, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a question from Shubhanu. She says, Namaskaram Akka. At a certain point, when you want to get further training from a guru who has a different Bani, who comes from a different Bani, how positive or negative could it be?
I think
That's-
everything is positive. I don't think of things negatively. Bani is a matter of, it's in your head. If you like a Bani and you want to learn from it, there's nothing that can need stop you. Why should there be anything negative about it? You want to, that it's that same thing that we were talking about freedom of expression. You should put off the switches in your hand. So he's saying here, putting on the switches in your hand. If you decide you want to learn another Bani, learn it. But learn it with a positive energy, because if you go in negatively and say, oh, something's going to happen to me, then don't do it. Then stay with your conservative attitude. But I would say that, I found so much beauty in every Bani, that this whole thing about the Banis is just it's just a, I take students always from all Banis. I appeal to their teachers. I will not harm your child. Let them dance the way they've learned from you, but let them be exposed to a new idea, another way of looking at something. And there are enough people now who've done those switchovers. They keep jumping between one guru and another, one style and another. They're learning from somebody, they're mentoring from somebody, they're working in somebody else's company. So it's okay. It's all right.
Yeah. Right.
It's all right.
There's a question from Vidya Subramaniam, and she wants to know, what's your response to those who ask, what is the purpose of art? That's a big, we have to have a sit down session, Vidya, with that. That's a one evening of gupshupping to find out that. I'm not a wizard, and I don't have the answers off the tip of my fingers, but I would say that the purpose of art for me is to search for Satyam Shivam Sundaram. The search for beauty in everything that we do. Today, for the first time, I made a raw mango dal. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I did it very carefully. I've become a good cook over this COVID period. And it was brilliant. And it was such a wonderful thing. So, you've got to put your heart into it, and you've got to look for satisfaction and rasa in what you do and how you do it, and feel good about it. And if you made some mistakes, it's okay. But the point of art is that we will bumble through, because there's such highly refined art forms. We are not talking about just another art form and making that little sambar in the kitchen. That's not the thing. But it's like that. I like to use those analogies, because sometimes we fail to, we want to wrap these things up in cliched answers, and I don't want to do that. I want to say that for me, it's finding beauty in anything I do. I must say it's very hard in our times to do that. But certainly in your art, you should look for the beauty invested in every piece. That's what I'm saying. You get a padam. You don't want to spend time looking at the sahityam. You don't want to deconstruct it. You don't want to question it. You don't want to analyze it. You just want to learn it. And fast. 4 days? Yeah, 4 days. So you haven't appreciated the music. You haven't, if you can sit with a musician like Soumya and say, Soumya, just tell me about the beauty of this padam. Explain to me musically. Wow. And then I sit with a Sanskrit, Telugu Pandit, and I say, Malladi brothers, please tell me what this means. And if I get all that rasa and then I try and do it, it's a mind-boggling difference. Because in my limited levels of appreciation, I cannot understand them all. I only know how to dance, and even that is questionable. So really we have to really toil a little more. Right. So Neelaka, do you spend that kind of time on each of your productions? I mean, I do. Endless. And even when what the company doesn't see is the time I spend mulling over it. So it's something that has to be with you for a long time, and but you will make mistakes. Some people will not like it. It's okay. If you are happy and you felt that you made a good expression, that's one level of satisfaction. If you want everybody in the world to love it, they
Not
don't
gonna
even like you. Why will they like your dancing? So there are
Right.
people who don't like me. They automatically they don't like my dancing too. It's fine. It's okay. To each his own, I think. But the purpose of art is it's different thing for everybody. But I think the search was always for the truth of our lives, for uh, the highest aspirations in our lives. How much can you aspire for a point of perfection, a point of beauty, for that perfect line, for the balance within, the balance here, the balance in the emotions. How can you also be intelligent and reach out to people on levels that, heal, not levels that just, make you
Just,
say,
yeah.
oh, wow. The wow factor is okay, but it's also the healing and the embracing and caressing somebody else that is very important.
Right.
How do you do it? It's not easy.
Yeah.
Tough one.
Yeah. Lekha, you've had your more than fair share of troubles. What has been your anchor really? And how have you managed to sort of cope and
I would say a philosophy which came to me early in Kalakshetra. I was a very, very ardent admirer of, of course, Atte and her philosophy, but also Shankar Menon, who was an Advaita scholar, and he was a Bhagavad Gita person who loved his poetry, and all the various people who came to Kalakshetra and spoke to us on various aspects of life and living, and not necessarily religion, but also about atheism, about spirituality, about different things. So it gave me some centering. Also, my mother was a very pious woman. She was actually, yeah, she was very centered. Somewhere in the core, there was a very strong belief system. My father, for him, work was his belief.
his
His centering was in his work. He just absolutely honest and upright and regular and not missing a day's work. So these in many of the people I've mentioned in terms of the lagav they had for what they did, or the passion or intellect. But from them, I've been able to cull a certain centering, which is made up of all these things: discipline. Um, I think if you can believe sincerely that it doesn't matter if you don't have everything, then I think you're in a safer place. To me, believe me, I'm saying this absolutely honestly. I never hankered for position or power, though it would seem like that because I've held some positions, but I never sought them. They came to me. And when something comes to you, then you have to take it as a blessing, and you also have to take it with a certain sense of purpose, and do them with as much sincerity as you can. But I've had more flack than I can. Um, that I Yeah, it's become quite difficult to bear it. Um, but it's okay. Um, it's the price you pay.
Thank you so much.
Thank
I
you,
mean,
Akhila.
I've really enjoyed this conversation. There are a few more questions. If you're okay, then I will ask you. Otherwise,
Fine. I'm fine. I can take a couple. Yeah.
just there's a question about what does the term classical mean to you? Why are some art forms, according to you, recognized as classical and others not?
Okay, this is a very good question. I'd really like to answer that. Nomenclatures that exist in our country are passe. And I really sincerely believe, and when I was chairperson Sangeet Nat Academy, I mooted the idea of dropping these classifications completely because they were, I don't also believe in, you know, abusing or finding fault with something that went past. Everybody did whatever they did with absolute, and these were really great minds that named these things. Uh, the country had to get a grip of all the art forms they had, and I can imagine that in 1947, when we started these bodies, some very, very fine minds were put to it, and they did make these classifications. But they've run their period of time. They've done it. It's over. Frankly, there is hierarchy in the way that we Indians think of these words. These are foreign words. All art in India is Shastriya. But when we use these English words of classical, folk, tribal, religious, martial, then we've pointed our eyes in a particular direction. So if I say martial art forms, Kalaripayattu, Thangta, immediately come to mind, which is fair. I don't think those art forms should be in any way, shun the word. There's no need for them to shun the word. There was a movement at some point in the 70s, 80s, where people started changing all the names of Bharatanatyam items. How does it, how does changing the names matter? So these nomenclatures, you can change them. Now, what name will you give the martial arts? Do you want to call them classical? I don't think so. I don't think we should be called the classical forms. Can you call them folk? So what do you do? It's a very, very complex question.
Complex.
But it does lead to certain evils, and some of the evils are that I put aside so many awards for the classical, and I put aside only so many for the folk. That is discrimination. So the ideal would be that we treat all art forms on one platform in terms of awards, in terms of scholarships, in terms of money is given out. That if a classical artist is getting an indigent, money for hospitalization, then you should be able to give it to a simple potter as well. This is in an ideal world. But will everybody see it through to the last? We know what happens to funding in India. These are very problematic things. I think what each of us should do is not look down on the person next to you. Oh, you're a Kathak dancer. Immediately there's a in my time there was a difference even between the way a Bharatanatyam dancer perceived another form. There was a very big we are superior. So this thing is very, very detrimental. And then how do we treat a folk form? Does a Kudiyattam dancer or a Kathakali dancer treat a Theyyam dancer differently? Maybe. Maybe not. So I would say that ultimately it's how we treat the person in front of us. And I think we should treat them on par. If it's a great artist of any form, we should be able to not only just grant it to them, condescendingly, but to actually feel that I can learn something from this person. And treat them as an artist of value. It's important for us to change our mindsets, but we keep finding fault with the names. The names will they'll get eliminated immediately as long as we first change our minds.
Absolutely.
If I don't think of them as pariah, then they become mine. I have to not think of them as the other. It's the way we treat each other. We treat each other like that.
Exactly. We need to first change the way that,
So this attitude has to change. Look at what we do with our people who, help us work for us.
Absolutely.
So I think this is a mental
it's part
thing.
of a larger.
India has to be Indians. First of all, look at ourselves. Are we color conscious? Are we status conscious? Are we religious conscious? Are we all these are very, very, very sensitive issues. I am very sensitive to them because I am the other, if you like. I am the pariah, and I'm oversensitive to them. That's why I feel no child in any school should have a surname. Throw out the
Absolutely.
surnames. Let's throw out the surnames. If I was just Leela, I might have been somewhere else today.
Yeah,
That's the truth.
that's the truth. Yeah, absolutely. There's a question from a dancer in Singapore, Mira. She says, how to deal with the idea of perfection and how do we overcome the pressure of achieving it or even identifying it, since different audiences come with different expectations?
I think Mira should ask herself the question: is she dancing for these different audiences, for these different groups of people? Is she trying to reach out to her college friends in the audience, or is she trying to reach out to her party's friends, or is she trying to reach out to that particular orthodox dance group? Who is she dancing for? She should dance for herself, and she should go with absolute faith in what her teacher has given her at that point in her life. If she wishes to change that situation, that's up to her. If she wants to change the fabric of her dancing, it's up to her. But she should know that once you desire to change things, you'll have to go on changing them, because people will never be satisfied. They want you to die there. They'd like to see you die. And we do die on stage. As we're dancing, we are dying. Every moment when you're on stage, you are dying a bit. But I think that is because you should do it because that's what you want to do. You want to die living, you know?
Right.
Every moment of life should be so impactful that you die every time you're and it is true, metaphorically and otherwise. You are moving towards you have this time for yourself, and this is life is what has been given to you, and you should dance with absolute personal conviction. Mira should find a centering in herself and ask herself the question, what does she want to say, and how does she want to say it, and then say it like that. Don't dither. Don't dither at all.
Right. Like, I'm just going to end with this one last question from Kumuda. What is your view of a dancer developing their different facets? Other than practice, is any one facet, performing, teaching, choreographing, more essential than another?
What is essential for her at that moment in her lifetime would be the best. I would say that frankly, sometimes I get very disappointed when young dancers who are very talented end up spending all their effort and time on teaching some brat and not getting anywhere with it, and while they should be dancing. So I think there is a time when you should be on stage and when you should be full of energy and you should dance. And even if you're not on stage, just dance, because this is the time that you can enjoy it. Once your body gives and you enter other spaces, social spaces where you are not able to give that time, maybe that's the time you could consider you're a little more mature. You can consider getting into teaching, but I don't think you should teach unless you really love teaching, because teaching is not to be done only because you earn a little money from it. I know musicians keep throwing this card at dancers that, oh, y'all are all well off because y'all are teaching. It's not a satisfactory situation. You should teach if you really want to teach. If you love children, teach. And if you want to give, most of us should be very selfish. We are performers. We should be selfish people. We are selfish people. You shouldn't learn from a famous dancer. Learn from somebody who's not on the stage anymore, because they'll be ready to give you more.
Yeah,
at least that was the situation. I'm being a little facetious, but I'm saying that these stages of, and certainly choreography, nobody should do unless you have a flair for it.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all quite stupid about that, including me. We think we're choreographers. I don't think we all are. We should let those who can do it better, let them do it. Some have a flair. Because in that also there's a lot about balance and how much to say and not to say and things like that.
Thank you, Leelaka. I really appreciate. I know we took a lot of your time, But I really appreciate you taking time and talking to all of us, answering so many questions. Truly appreciate it. Thank you so much. Please stay safe and we'll be in touch. Thank you so much to everybody who logged in.
Yes,
Yeah.
my love to all of them who've logged in. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.